In the sleepy town of Springfield, where the ordinary often teetered on the edge of the absurd, life at the nuclear power plant trudged along with its usual mix of incompetence and negligence. Homer Simpson, the plant's perpetually distracted safety inspector, was slouched in his chair, daydreaming about a fresh batch of pink frosted donuts. His console blinked with ignored warning lights, but Homer's focus was elsewhere, specifically on the half-eaten donut in his hand. It was just another day until a single misstep changed everything. The incident began innocently enough. During a routine and unsupervised inspection, Homer wandered into a restricted storage area, lured by the faint smell of something sweet. There he stumbled, quite literally, over a rusted barrel marked with cryptic symbols and leaking a viscous glowing green sludge. The barrel tipped and the substance splashed over him, soaking his clothes and seeping into his skin. "Dough," he yelped, brushing it off with his usual nonchalance before grabbing another donut from his pocket. Unbeknownst to him, the residue wasn't just radioactive waste from Mr. Burns's cost-cutting schemes. It was something far older, alien, and incomprehensible. That evening, back at 742 Evergreen Terrace, Homer's behavior took a turn. Dinner was a chaotic affair as usual, but Marge noticed something off. Homer wasn't just eating his meatloaf, he was devouring it with a ferocity that silenced the table. "Homer, slow down," Marge said, her blue hair bobbing with concern. But he didn't stop. He emptied the serving dish, then reached for the mashed potatoes, the gravy boat, and even the tablecloth, shoving it all into his mouth with a guttural moan. Bart snickered, thinking it was a prank, while Lisa's eyes narrowed, sensing something wasn't right. "Dad, are you okay?" she asked, but Homer only grunted, his eyes glazed and distant. By bedtime, the situation worsened. Marge found Homer in the living room, surrounded by the wreckage of their pantry. Empty cereal boxes, cookie wrappers, and even a chewed-up spatula littered the floor. But it wasn't just food. Homer was gnawing on the TV remote, his teeth leaving deep gouges in the plastic. "Homer J. Simpson, what's gotten into you?" Marge demanded, hands on her hips. He turned to her, and for a moment she froze. His mouth seemed wider, unnaturally stretched, with jagged teeth peeking out where his familiar buck teeth should have been. A long, slick tongue darted out, tasting the air like a serpent's. "More," he rasped, his voice low and wrong. The next morning, Homer's transformation became undeniable. His skin had taken on a sickly, mottled hue, and his mouth now dominated his face, a gaping maw that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. His tongue, now prehensile and black as tar, writhed constantly, seeking something to grasp. He no longer spoke in his usual bumbling cadence. Only guttural growls and moans escaped his throat. Marge, ever the optimist, tried to keep the family calm. "Maybe it's just a phase," she said, her voice trembling. Lisa, flipping through her chemistry books, wasn't so sure. "This isn't normal, Mom. We need to get him to Dr. Hibbert." Bart, meanwhile, saw an opportunity for chaos. "Let's see how many donuts he can eat now," he said, tossing a box of Krusty's finest at Homer. The box disappeared into his maw, paper and all, in a single gulp. The family's attempt to get Homer to the hospital was a disaster. As they dragged him toward the car, he lashed out, his strength unnatural. He shoved Marge against the garage door, her gasp echoing in the quiet morning. Bart, quick on his feet, darted away, but Lisa stood frozen, clutching her saxophone case like a shield. "Dad, please," she cried, but Homer's eyes, now sunken and devoid of warmth, fixed on her for a moment before he turned, lumbering toward the street. The Simpsons' quiet neighborhood was about to become a battleground. Homer's hunger led him to Springfield's streets, where his first victims fell. The mailman, cheerfully whistling as he delivered bills, didn't see the hulking figure until it was too late. Homer's tongue shot out, wrapping around the man's waist and yanking him into the gaping maw. A scream, a crunch, and then silence. Neighbors peeked out their windows, horrified, as Homer staggered toward the comic book guy's store. Inside, the portly shopkeeper was mid-rant about the latest superhero reboot when Homer crashed through the door. "Worst customer ever," comic book guy muttered, reaching for a collectible lightsaber. It was no use. Homer's tongue lashed out, dragging him and half the store's inventory into his mouth. Action figures, comic books, and glass display cases vanished in a grotesque symphony of chewing. By noon, Springfield was in chaos. Police Chief Wiggum arrived, donut in hand, only to drop it in shock at the sight of Homer, now twice his normal size, his body a pulsating mass of flesh and writhing tendrils. Freeze or something," Wiggum stammered, firing a warning shot. The bullet sank harmlessly into Homer's flesh, absorbed like water into a sponge. The creature roared, its maw splitting wider, and Wiggum's squad car was next, crumpled and swallowed whole. Word spread fast and panic gripped the town. Lisa, back at home, pored over her notes, desperate for answers. "There's something in that sludge," she muttered, examining a sample she'd scraped from Homer's work clothes. "It's not from Earth." As the sun set, the Simpsons huddled in their living room, the sounds of distant screams filtering through the windows. Marge clutched a family photo, tears streaming down her face. "We have to save him," she whispered. Bart, for once subdued, nodded. Lisa closed her book, determination in her eyes. "We need to find out what this is, before it's too late." But deep down they all felt it. A creeping dread that whatever Homer was becoming, it was no longer their husband, their father, their Homer. And as the stars twinkled above Springfield, the dawn broke over Springfield, but the town was unrecognizable. Smoke curled from shattered buildings, and the streets were littered with debris, shredded tires, broken storefronts, and the eerie absence of life. Homer Simpson, no longer a man but a hulking abomination, had left a trail of devastation in his wake. His body, now a grotesque amalgamation of pulsating flesh and writhing black tendrils, towered over the ruins of the Quickie Mart. His maw, a cavernous void lined with jagged teeth, pulsed with an otherworldly hunger. The Simpsons family, huddled in their home, faced an impossible task. Stop the creature that was once their patriarch before he consumed everything they knew. Marge, her face pale but resolute, rallied the family in the living room. "We can't give up on him," she said, clutching the family photo she'd held the night before. Lisa, surrounded by books and a makeshift chemistry set, shook her head. "Mom, that thing out there, it's not Dad anymore." Bart, unusually quiet, kicked at a couch cushion. "Yeah, well, I'm not letting some drooling monster ruin my town." Their plan was desperate. Lure Homer to the basement, lock him in, and buy time for Lisa to analyze the alien residue. Marge baked a towering stack of pancakes, hoping the scent would draw him back. But when they opened the front door, the creature was already gone, its heavy footsteps echoing toward downtown Springfield. The family's first attempt at containment was a disaster. They tracked Homer to the Springfield town square, where he was devouring the statue of Jebediah Springfield, bronze and all. Bart, ever the troublemaker, grabbed a megaphone from a nearby police barricade and taunted, "Hey, donut breath, bet you can't catch me." He lobbed a box of day-old donuts, hoping to lead Homer to the Simpson house. But the creature's tongue, now a whip-like appendage, lashed out, snatching the donuts midair and nearly catching Bart. The crowd of onlookers, Lenny, Carl, and a trembling Ralph Wiggum, scattered as Homer's roar shook the ground. Marge's pleas, shouted through tears, went unheard. The creature's sunken eyes showed no recognition, only hunger. Back at home, Lisa dove into her research with frantic determination. She'd collected a sample of the green sludge from Homer's work clothes, and under her microscope saw something chilling. The substance wasn't just chemical, it was alive, teeming with microscopic structures that pulsed in sync with an unseen rhythm. "This isn't terrestrial," she whispered, cross-referencing her findings with a book on extraterrestrial biology she'd borrowed from Professor Frink. Her hypothesis was grim. The residue was a catalyst, rewriting Homer's biology to serve an ancient, alien purpose. She tried synthesizing an antidote, but each attempt fizzled, the substance defying her understanding. "I need more time," she muttered, but time was running out. Bart, refusing to sit idle, hatched a new plan. "If we can't trap him, let's distract him." He enlisted Milhouse and Nelson, leading them to the Krusty Burger, where they rigged a delivery truck with every burger in the joint. "Operation Grease Bomb is a go," Bart declared, driving the truck toward Homer, who was now uprooting trees in the park. The smell of fried patties worked. Homer's head swiveled and he lumbered after the truck, swallowing it whole, tires and all. But the victory was short-lived. Enraged, he tore through the Krusty Burger, devouring the building and everyone inside, including a screaming Krusty the Clown. Bart barely escaped, diving into a dumpster as the creature's tongue grazed his. Skateboard. The town's resistance crumbled. Mr. Burns, seeing an opportunity to harness the creature's power, ordered Smithers to capture it. "Imagine the profit margins," he cackled from his mansion. But when Smithers approached with a team of hired goons, Homer's tendrils enveloped them, and Burns' screams echoed as his estate was reduced to rubble. Moe, barricading his tavern, thought he could hold out with a shotgun and a case of Duff. "Nobody eats my bar," he growled. But Homer's fist smashed through the roof, and the tavern, along with Moe and his regulars, vanished into the moor. Panic spread, and Springfield's residents fled, clogging the highways with abandoned cars. Marge made one last attempt to reach Homer. She stood alone in the street, holding the family photo aloft as the creature loomed over her. "Homer, it's me. You're Marge. Remember our wedding, our kids, our life." Her voice broke, but the creature paused, its eyes flickering. For a moment, hope flared until its tongue shot out, wrapping around her. Lisa and Bart, watching from a distance, screamed as Marge was pulled into the moor, the photo fluttering to the ground. Bart threw a rock in futile rage, while Lisa clutched her notebook, tears blurring her vision. "We failed," she whispered. As if fueled by Marge's loss, Homer's rampage intensified. Ned Flanders, ever the optimist, took a different approach. From the ruins of his church, he gathered survivors, Maud, Rod, Todd, and a handful of terrified townsfolk, and declared Homer a divine harbinger. "The Lord has sent this devourer to cleanse us," he proclaimed, forming a cult that knelt before the creature, offering food and trinkets as sacrifices. But their worship only empowered Homer, his body swelling larger, his tendrils stretching farther. He devoured the church, Ned's prayers turning to screams as the cult vanished into his gullet. By nightfall, Springfield was a ghost town. Homer, now the size of a building, crouched amid the wreckage, his maw glowing faintly with an unearthly light. Lisa and Bart, hiding in the school's basement, listened to the distant rumbles of his hunger. Lisa's notes lay scattered, her antidote. Experiments a failure. Bart clutched his slingshot, his bravado gone. What do we do now? Springfield was gone, reduced to a desolate crater where homes, schools, and dreams once stood. The creature that was once Homer Simpson, now a towering monstrosity of pulsating flesh, writhing tendrils, and an ever-widening maw, crouched in the ruins, its hunger unquenched. The sky above was unnaturally dark, the stars dimmed by an unseen force. Lisa and Bart Simpson, among the last survivors, hid in the basement of Springfield Elementary, their faces gaunt with grief and fear. Marge was gone, devoured by the thing their father had become, and the weight of their failure pressed heavily on them. But the worst was yet to come, as Homer's hunger stretched beyond the earth, reaching for the cosmos itself. The devastation of Springfield marked the beginning of Homer's final transformation. As dawn broke, his body swelled, no longer bound by human limits. His flesh rippled, sprouting membranous, bat-like wings that shimmered with an oily sheen, capable of propelling him through the vacuum of space. His tendrils, now miles long, lashed at the air, tearing through the last remnants of the town hall and the nuclear power plant. Lisa, peering through a cracked basement window, gasped at the sight. "He's adapting," she whispered, her notebook clutched tightly. "Whatever that substance was, it's rewriting him for something bigger." Bart, his usual bravado replaced by a hollow stare, muttered, "Bigger than eating a whole town? What's next? The moon?" Bart's words proved prophetic. Homer's hunger turned skyward, and his first cosmic victim was the moon. With a single, earth-shaking leap, he launched into the heavens, his wings unfurling as he tore through the atmosphere. The survivors in Springfield, Lisa, Bart, and a handful of others, including a trembling Principal Skinner and groundskeeper Willie, watched in horror as the moon vanished, swallowed whole by the distant silhouette of the creature. The tides went wild, flooding coastal cities, and the night sky grew eerily empty. "He's not stopping," Lisa said, her voice breaking. She scribbled calculations, estimating the energy required for such a feat, but the numbers defied logic. This isn't just biology, it's cosmic. Homer's rampage through the solar system was relentless. Mars fell next, its red surface disappearing into his maw as if it were a mere candy bar. Jupiter's swirling storms were no match, its moons consumed like appetizers. Saturn's rings glittered briefly before being sucked into the void of his mouth. Each planet's destruction sent shockwaves through the cosmos, disrupting orbits and plunging Earth into chaos. The survivors, now huddled in the school's gymnasium, felt the planet grow colder as Homer turned his gaze to the sun. With a roar that echoed through the void, he engulfed the star, its light snuffed out in an instant. Darkness enveloped Earth, and temperatures plummeted, frost creeping over the ruins. On Earth, the last remnants of humanity faced their end. Lisa and Bart, joined by Skinner, Willie, and a shivering Milhouse, clung to life in the frozen gymnasium. Lisa's experiments had yielded nothing. The alien substance was too complex, its purpose too vast for her to counter. "I thought I could fix this," she said, her voice barely audible over the howling wind. Bart, wrapping a tattered blanket around her, tried to joke. "Hey, at least we got front row seats to the end of the world." But his eyes betrayed his fear. Skinner, ever the bureaucrat, attempted to organize the group, muttering about emergency protocols. But Willie silenced him with a glare. "Face it, laddie, we're done for." Outside, the ground trembled as Homer's distant movements shook the planet. Homer's transformation reached its zenith. No longer a creature of flesh, he became a living singularity, a black hole with a will, his maw a gateway to oblivion. His body, now a swirling vortex of darkness and tendrils, warped space-time itself, drawing in asteroids, comets, and distant stars. From Earth, the survivors saw the sky empty, constellations vanishing one by one. Lisa, staring at the void, realized the truth. "He's not just eating matter," she said, her voice hollow. "He's consuming existence." Her final note, scrawled in the dark, speculated that the alien substance had awakened something ancient, a force designed to devour universes. But there was no time to act on her theories. The end came swiftly. Earth, deprived of the sun's warmth, became a frozen tomb. The survivors in the gymnasium succumbed to the cold, their breath forming clouds in the air. Lisa and Bart held each other, their faces illuminated by the faint glow of a dying flashlight. "I'm sorry, Bart," Lisa whispered. "I couldn't save us." Bart squeezed her hand, his voice steady despite the tears. "You tried, Liz. That's what counts." One by one, their companions froze. Skinner mid-sentence, Willie clutching his rake, Milhouse whimpering softly. The siblings were the last, their eyes fixed on the ceiling as ice claimed them, their bodies preserved in a silent embrace. Beyond Earth, Homer's hunger knew no bounds. Galaxies spiraled into his maw, their light extinguished in seconds. Nebulae, black holes and entire clusters vanished, the universe shrinking with each gulp. The creature, now a cosmic blight, moved without purpose, driven only by an insatiable need. Stars winked out, leaving only darkness. The fabric of reality unraveled, time and space collapsing into the singularity that was once Homer Simpson. In the final moments, a chilling ambiguity lingered. As the universe dissolved, faint whispers echoed in the void, syllables in an alien tongue suggesting that Homer was not alone. Other entities dormant for eons stirred in the emptiness, their own hungers awakened by